Open date for football. They're 3-2. Big win, I thought, against Kentucky. I think there are some positives. I mentioned those today on coffee, like non-offensive touchdowns. Carolina's number one in America with it. I think that can be helpful. Like if you look at around the SEC, it's another year where there's a lot of NFL type outcomes. You got a lot of 24-17 games, some high scoring 44-41, things like that. But they're all relatively close. I mean, you look, Texas A&M dominates Auburn. Auburn went like 0 for 13 on third down, had 177 yards in Aggie land. Final score 16-10. Would you agree that number one, knowing that you can't count on those every game, but would you agree that could be helpful if that trend sort of continues, given the competitiveness of the SEC game to game this year?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes to like if they can continue doing. I mean, it's something that you don't want to rely on just because you're going to be facing, especially in this stretch of where you're facing top 15 teams. It looks like right now you can't rely on having these defensive and special teams touchdowns every game. But I mean, it's something that's going to help them, especially if the offense kind of continues in its trend. Like it's something that you want, and I mean, it's. I think defensively, when you look at South Carolina Kentucky game, after those first two drives, they really just kind of anchored down a little bit and like stopped that run. And it was something we talked about going into the game where South Carolina can get after Carter Boley and stop the run early to get into those passing downs. They can force those types of things where under Shane Beamer, South Carolina's defense have been pretty opportunistic for most years, and it feels like this team's already got that knack a little bit. And you saw that in the Kentucky game with it's one thing to get the interception, but then you got to have the blocking to get in downfield. And Shane Beamer mentioned it with Gerald Kogor having that quarterback background in high school in Tennessee Tech. Like you can see that there. But they also, I mean, special teams, like it's been, Bakari Swain has been really solid too. And like it feels like there's been a few times too where they've been really close in a kickoff standpoint too, taking one back. And now what you're starting to see is teams aren't even kicking to Nick Harbor back there. They're kicking to Jaquel Holman, whoever that is back there. So, yeah, I mean, from a defensive special teams, like, you want that to keep going. And then you just hope, the offense can kind of find some things to get going and kind of build off of that.
On the offense, what's your take on what the starting offensive line five should be? Assume Henry and Hay are healthy. And then give it to us if Henry and Hay are not healthy. Give us two different Alex Jones offensive lines.
All right, so if Henry is not healthy for LSU, I think I would go Tree at left tackle, Shed at left guard, Rodney Newsom at center, Trevon Ball at right guard, and then Kason Henry at right. Jatavius Shivers at right tackle. Then if Kason Henry's back, I think you just put him at right tackle and then keep that same four.
So you're a Newsom at center guy regardless.
I thought he was pretty solid there. He was better there at center than he was at guard at the Virginia Tech game, and I don't think they had many issues from a snapping standpoint, which I think you saw that in the spring game. Maybe it was that there were some snapping issues, but you haven't seen any issues with that. When you kind of go back and look at it, I thought he was pretty solid at center.
Do you agree that Josiah Thompson and Boaz Stanley in general have been disappointing this year?
I think so. I think with Josiah Thompson, I was kind of wondering and thinking he would take that freshman to sophomore jump that you see guys take sometimes. And it just seems like it's been a little bit of a slow start from him. Maybe having a game where he's seen it from the sidelines and having that, off his shoulder of having to make the plays every game, like maybe seeing it from the sideline can help him. But I think it's gotten to the point with Tree that you got to find a spot for him. And then, with on the other side at right tackle with Kason Henry, let's say, if he's not playing in an LSU game, like Jatavius Shivers, it seems like every time he gets in, there's good things happening offensively. And you saw that I think he was in on that last drive where they started moving the ball a little bit from a run game standpoint. So, I mean, I think you got some depth there at that tackle spot. And I just think you get to the point where you got Tree Babalati that you got to find a spot for that's not going to, it doesn't look like it's going to be at a guard. So it seems like left tackle could be that spot.
Man, I like Tree at tackle. I mean, I kind of mentioned that in the offseason because everybody was like, why can't Treaties to, because Kason Henry was the whipping boy then, Kason's played pretty good. And I always kind of brought it up. I was like, yeah, he could beat Kason out, but he also could beat Josiah Thompson out. if Josiah Thompson does not get better. Now, I, like you, felt like, oh, this guy's got all the tools. He won the job last year as a true freshman. I think he could, but he hadn't taken a step. It's actually a little not as good as it was last year. And I don't know if he may be one of those guys that, like Mitch Hyatt at Clemson could not gain the weight. Ended up not getting drafted. 5-star guy, 4-year starter, played on a national championship team, really good college player. But and I know Beamer mentioned he was up over 300 pounds. He's always been listed at 300. Kind of shows you some things. I was like, he was listed at 300 last year. But and that was before preseason, but he looks lean to me. He looks like leaner than last year when you look at him without his pads on. There's a couple pictures during preseason camp. I was like, he looks a lot leaner. And I thought, and sometimes when you do bulk up over the summer, then you start practicing.
Mm-hmm.
You always lose weight during preseason camp. I mean, it's because you're sweating constantly. I mean, it's most football players, I think, will tell you that they may weigh in at 303 at the start of fall camp, but by the time that first game kicks off, they may be 275. And all that good stuff. But he looks lean, and he doesn't look like he's gotten a whole lot stronger. Like he's one, like a lot of the issues on the O-line to me, Alex, are, assignment based. I think these are good players. The left tackle, though, is getting physically overwhelmed. And
it feels like sometimes there's been, when you watch him too, it feels like there's been a few plays or a handful of plays where, he's, either maybe in a slot protection or something, they're just completely missing free rushers. And it seems like the left side has had a few more of those issues where now I think the right side, when you've had Casey Henry and Trevon Ball in there and right guard and right tackle, that right side's been pretty good. And I think if you can figure out the center part of it, I think that helps. And that's why I think this bye week comes at a pretty good time for one to try to get Casey Henry healthy, but then also just figure some things out on this offensive line. And Matt Anderson and I talked about it last night. We're kind of going through 3 things you want to see change or 3 things you want to see improve or stuff like that. And, I think you still want to see, obviously you need to see more improvements from a run game standpoint, but, when you kind of look at it, it still feels like there's too many people in the box defensively when South Carolina's trying to run the ball. And a lot of that can be just spreading out, getting the lower sellers out of the pocket, run things like that. But I still think the offensive line has to continue to improve, but they still need some help there from a run game standpoint.
Yeah, I think this. Cam in the Nana Sports chat box says, "What have you seen from Tree this year that has him being better than Josiah?" He put "better" in quotes. He's not getting knocked backward. He's not getting beat as often. He's a better run blocker. He's got more power. He's a bigger guy. He's an older guy and plays like it. That's what I've seen. I mean, I've seen that out of Tree, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, same exact thing I would have said there.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Josiah Thompson, I'm not throwing in the towel on this guy. No. Just like Tree started as a true freshman, and then he wasn't, he kind of got behind over the summer, workout-wise, was out of shape, stuff like that. Had some injuries at the beginning of fall camp, and they just said, hey, why don't we just redshirt you, because so kind of like that, you can't redshirt Josiah now, but he may need a year. You know what I'm saying?
It could be a reset type of thing for him.
Yeah. Krager goes back to basketball. He says, are we going to get canceled if we call him Mongolian Mike?
He is Mongolian.
Everybody calls him Mongolian. I mean, other people call him Mongolian Mike. I don't think
if he weren't.
Double M, Eminem. Call him Eminem. So,
I've been working on it, though. Sharab jumps.
Sharab jumps.
I think that's right. That's something I want to find out today.
You don't know for sure?
Yeah, I was looking up his his profile on Gamecocks Online. It sounds like that's right, but I've heard it said a few different ways.
Interesting. I'll have to ask Derek.
Wonder if Mongolian is a language. I was like, is it similar to Thai? I get my wife to pronounce it. It's not.
No.
Thai is different than like Mandarin Chinese. Anyway, yeah, all right. So totally, we got off topic there. Yeah, Cam, thanks for asking the question. And Craig's right. Tree's stronger right now, I think. Mm-hmm. And Tree's been playing good football when he's been in games. I don't know what's happening at practice, obviously, but I think he's at tackle the last 2 years when he's played well. Arguably better than I'll say more consistent than Thompson. Now watch him go out against LSU and he's just getting beat like a drum. That's
Well,
how it goes.
what I don't like is they were willing to make a change last week mid-game, right? Like, and that's bold for that position group. Like, they're just like,
they don't ever,
barring injury, you usually don't see that. But
yeah, that's why I think this bye week you got to figure out who the 5 are and roll with it, and not do the rotating anymore, and figure out those 5 and go.
Yeah, I'd like to see the 5 that come out against LSU be the 5 that we see roll out there every week.
Bruin said he saw Josiah Thompson as a recruit and said he didn't look a pound over 240 then. Yeah, and sometimes those guys can be deceiving. I've seen guys like that throughout my career, my old career, when I evaluated talent, and I'd look at a guy and I was like, he looks like 6'7", 220 defensive end. They get on the scale, he's 265, and I'm like, freak.
It was a long, hot walk to get here.
Doc mentions Josiah plays a little too high right now. Yeah, and I've seen some fundamental issues with him this year, Alex, that I did not see last season. I saw him get beat like a freshman sometimes, but he's out of whack somehow.
And some of that can be just the trying too hard, or just because when you try too hard, you get out of the the technical mechanical stuff of playing off the line. So that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe if you have a game where he's on the sideline, and I know that kind of goes back to goes against what I was just saying, where you find the 5 offensive linemen and go with it. But if he can have that game where he just hits the reset button and looks back on, build on positive things that he has, because I mean, you saw he was pretty decent last year as a true freshman, and you can't do that. It's pretty hard to do that in the SEC. So I mean, it looks like it's there. It's just like it seems like maybe trying too hard right now.
His sophomore slump. I don't know. Add that list of things that surprise me about this. And then Boaz Stanley. I mean, and look, we're not attacking players here, guys. I mean, we pull for all the players they're all good, fine people, but we're talking football and solutions. There's not, again, blame versus answers. We're looking for answers. It's much more about giving someone else a chance, like Tree, than it is about, Josiah all of a sudden sucks. I still think he's going to be fantastic. Sometimes, though, you do need a break, look and watch, and you come back better. That's just life. Same thing with Boaz Stanley, because I think he looked completely lost, even at guard against Missouri. I mean, there were some things there. I'm like, oh, gosh. And for the life of me, and this is a little bit of a criticism towards maybe some coaching decisions, I don't know why you thought keeping him on the field was an answer in that football game.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about some of the pre-snap penalties and the stuff that I have to stop, and it feels like they were getting to the point where there's one too many of a snap infraction type of thing, and then you had the bad snaps, and those things you can just kill drives. And with the way the offense has kind of been going, like, you can't have those types of things where it's pushing the offense farther back behind the chains. So I wasn't too surprised to see Rodney Newsome in there, and again, I thought he was overall pretty solid. There's 1 or 2 plays I'm sure they'd like to have back, but that's kind of where I'd roll right now at center. It's with Newsome.
I thought the offensive line did play with more intensity and passion in the game.
Yeah, you saw that with Truvon Ball for sure. I mean, some of the stuff he was doing. You saw that, I think it was the Vanderbilt game where he and Shed Surratt kind of got after that one defensive lineman in that game. Like, that's a start. Like, I mean, you need some of that, and that's something you can build on in the bye week. Because it did seem like, I think Kentucky's defensive line is actually pretty good with, I'm forgetting the one guy's name, but and then you got David Gusta that's in there too, who was pretty good. Like, they, you can say things about their Kentucky secondary right now, but their defensive line's pretty solid. And, Mark Stoops always got pretty solid linebackers on his defense too. So I thought, there were good signs that you want to see from an offensive line. Like, was it where it needs to be? No, but there were positive signs. And one of that was kind of like that energy that you saw with going to the whistle and things like that.
Cam said, is it just Josiah, though? I'm not 100% sure the guys that have been here on the O-line in a room for a year or two have been properly developed as a whole. The entire product is off to me. I'll take that in parts. Is it just Josiah? No. I mean, I just talked about Boaz Stanley and his struggles. And, I don't mind Shivers. I mean, I think Casey Henry's played well this year, but if he's not healthy, man, just let him rest up, because I think Jatavius Shivers has played good. who's been here? Who's in year 3? Anderson, Shivers, Tree, and Tro.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know why. I mean, I guess Kaysen's in his 4th year, so he was starting at right tackle ahead of Shivers. But those guys are older. I think the development part of it, where you kind of scratch your head, would probably be with Josiah Thompson in year 2. You're like, well, yes, he's only in year 2, but he started all year last year. He was freshman All-American by some people. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh yeah, the development's fine. A lot of the development too on the offensive line is done with a strength program during the offseason. You get bigger, faster, more in shape. And Trevon Ball's made a lot of strides there. So is Tree, so is Shivers. But we'll see how that goes with individual development. Now, as far as getting the guys from the portal ready to play, Newsom's taken a while. I'm with and I thought Nolan Hay, to be a guy that has come in late, actually played well. Yeah. I think if you're just looking at personnel, not coaching and all that, just personnel, 74 and 50 have been Boaz is 50, right?
Yeah.
Those two consistently have been messing up one way or the other. Not saying everybody else hadn't messed up, because they certainly have. But it's been, if you're looking at just a personnel fix, I think those two were the ones you circled. It looks like something's going to happen.
And on the offensive line, if one person's not doing their job, it makes the whole offensive line look bad too. So it's one where you got to play five guys got to play as one. So it's just one of those where it's, especially at South Carolina right now, it's a position group that everybody has their eye on. It's just something where all 5 got to be on the same page and do the job every play.
Yeah. And you got to, like I was talking earlier, you got to have hope and faith, and it's all you got right now with this bunch. But I've seen it before. Sometimes you'll get a new group out there of guys that can play. There's nobody out there that's like, you look at and be like, oh God, like there sometimes is through the years at certain positions, but and so you look and you say, all right, well, these are the 5. That's why you recruit. That's why you sign portal guys. That's why you have depth. So anyway, on the offensive line, that's it. So LSU is an interesting case study. You hear all this talk about Nussmeier. I don't know that I'm buying it necessarily. To me, with LSU, Alex, I think probably, Nussmeier is what he is this year. And maybe he is in pain a little bit, right? And he comes back healthy and lights the Gamecocks on fire. But to me, the guys that missed, because they were very bad against an average Ole Miss defense Saturday. Ole Miss defense is not the same as it was last year. At least they hadn't played like it. To me, Caden Durham, their running back, and Aaron Anderson, their wide receiver, that both missed some of that Ole Miss game. I think those are the injuries to really watch. What say you?
Yeah, for one, LSU's run game really hadn't gotten going this year. I was just looking up. I think they're at 104 point something yards per game right now. And I think, if you get the run game going, that's something that will help Nussmeier. And, he maybe hasn't quite looked the same that he was last year. But he's got guys on the outside. Barry Brown, everybody knows, South Carolina fans know who he is, coming from Kentucky. But you're right, the health of Caden Durham, who didn't play because of that ankle injury against Ole Miss, and with Aaron Anderson, that's kind of the key, because it seems like right now they need all hands on deck offensively. And, going into the season, I think the question with that LSU offense was how they were going to replace everything up front offensively that they lost to the draft, because they had, a top 10 pick and Campbell, who went to the Patriots, and other offensive linemen who got drafted. They had a lot to replace up there. And it seems like that's still kind of a work in progress. And that's kind of the matchup that's going to be interesting to watch next week, because we'll talk about LSU's defense has been really good. And it's going to be difficult to score against them, but it seems like South Carolina's got some opportunities up front to see if they can get after Nussmeier, and if they can continue to limit LSU's run off or rush and attack, LSU's kind of struggled so far this year, that can kind of get into some of the same things that you had with Cutter Boley. Now, Garrett Nussmeier is way more experienced than Cutter Boley, but anytime you get in an offense of those 3rd and longs, you can get after them, and South Carolina showed they can do it, and they'll be an interesting matchup on the line of scrimmage.
We'll see what you think. Yeah, I'll definitely agree with you there. LSU is going to probably they'll send pressure with their backers too. That's got to clean up. I don't understand why a college offensive line. I mean, it's one thing to miss blocks, right? It's quite another to consistently they don't block the blitzing linebacker more than they do. Yes. They don't stop the defensive tackles that twist and stunt more than they do. It's baffling to me. I got to clean that up. I don't know what you got to do.
Free rushers.
Yeah, I mean it's insane. That usually means somebody's open though, and it also means sometimes if they're not playing contain, your quarterback can run around the end, which I hope they do a lot of. So let me see what you think about this. That's very emphatic. I have a gut feeling that this could happen. I think JT Gear, these last 7-8 games of his career, maybe more, who knows. I think there's a chance he plays really, really good football. And I think that as long as he stays healthy, and I know he's going to rotate and stuff, we may be looking at that fumble return for a touchdown as a catapulting moment for him, because I think once he got that return, his defensive end play got a lot better,
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty disruptive to start the season. Obviously, he made that pretty big play against Virginia Tech and got hurt on it. But I thought Kentucky was his best game so far. Like, he had a sack, and then he got credit with the forced fumble too, along with the recovery. But he's been disruptive, and I think that's going to help not only the rest of the defensive line, but Dylan Stewart as well, because they need somebody else. It doesn't have to be a Kyle Kennard type of player like they had last year who put up those stats, but somebody else on the opposite side that running backs and tight ends also have to worry about in Chip. And I think they're starting to see that because Brian Thomas, I think, has been kind of just Brian Thomas. Like, he's been pretty good so far. And then, but you also saw a little bit of Deju too. But back to JT Gear, like, he's been, I think, he's got a chance if he can stay healthy and continue to play the way he's been playing. Like, he's got a chance to make a pretty big impact because he's, I think, right now playing the best football that he's been playing at South Carolina.
Never count out. And here's a recruiting tip for you as you get old in this business, my friend. Never count out an in-state South Carolina defensive lineman. Never count them out.
Yeah.
There's been a few that have busted through the years, but Clemson and South Carolina both very low bust rate. Even if it takes a while, they usually hit in-state defensive linemen. North Carolina too, for that matter. But yeah. So you're not going to Baton Rouge? Is that Hale and Whittle, or are you going to Baton Rouge?
No, I'll be in Baton Rouge. Yep. First time being there.
You ever been down there?
It'd be first trip for me.
Ooh, it's loud, buddy.
I'm looking forward to that. I think fans didn't want it to be a night game, but I was kind of just wanted to see that night atmosphere, to be honest.
It's a big time. My buddy is a Georgia fan, went down there for the Georgia LSU game one time, got hit in the face with a ham sandwich with all the condiments, mustard.
I'll try to avoid.
Can you imagine that? Their fans aren't really that. I mean, they're crazy in the stadium and they'll yell and stuff, but outside of the stadium, they're cooking gators and crabs and crawfish and crap like that. And of course, average jambalaya. Thanks, Coach Joe.
Is that Orgeron going to be coaching somewhere next year? I've seen him saying that he wants to get back into it.
If I were UCLA, I'd hire him.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking, yeah.
I mean, you can't.
I mean, he's got ties to the area.
Yeah, I mean, you could do worse if you're Phil. That dad mug, when you turn it up, you do it fast. It looks like a Miller Lite can, and I keeps jerking my hand back.
Dude, I'm almost out of coffee too. I just sorry, I had to excuse myself there. I had a call from the school, so I was like, well, I better take this.
Man, my stepson, if their school ever calls, I'm gonna give them a piece of my mind about everything. Before it's probably something bad, like, you got to come pick up Cole, he's sick. I was like, well, before he even gets a word about it, let me just tell you about this and how much it sucks.
Yeah, it's like,
I don't understand you people, and you got tax money, but sir,
there was an incident at lunch today, apparently. So that's what I was like, okay, what happened here? I'm like, I didn't really get to dive into it. They're like, we're handling it, so I'll get the full story once my little one gets home, but there may be some follow-up action to this.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think you'll at least enjoy Baton Rouge and all that. They do have pretty good restaurants down there, good food and stuff. So
yeah,
you're going down with Whittle?
Yeah.
It's all three
Whittle.
of you going down, isn't it, Alex?
Hale
I
too.
think so, yeah.
In the car. Yeah, Hale was talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Hale and Whittle know where to eat. It'll be good for you. All right, Alex, man. Enjoy the basketball media stuff. Looking forward to talking to you about that next week. And so we know kind of what, a little more to expect. And then we'll talk a little about a lot more about this game as we kind of dive into it. I
Maybe
agree.
VHS dates will be back.
You know what I'm going to do? Even if there's like 2 that get released, I'm going to save. I'm going to at least make sure I have one for today.
We're going to bank. Yeah, we'll start banking for Thursday.
I'm writing down your evaluations of them.
Okay. All
and
right.
we may have a top 10 one day, like next summer, we'll have a top 10 Alex Jones VHS dates. It'll be pretty awesome. All right, buddy. Thanks so much. And we'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the weekend.
Appreciate y'all. See you next time.
JC